Hello again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first on satellite imagery, we've got upper level low out here crossing St. Lawrence Island. That bringing snow from Savunga and Gamble up into light snow at Nome, Shishmaref, and over at Wales, Tin City, and those areas. And then a band up the coast there, not hitting Kivalina, but catching Point Hope and Cape Lisburne. And then on over to Point Lay with light snow, nothing off to the east, and then a band of light snow and snow showers, along with some clouds here extending southeastward across northeast Bristol Bay, Togiak Bay, in toward southern Kodiak Island, where Sitkinak picked up, Akiak picked up about 0.15 of an inch of liquid precipitation in the last 12 hours, that falling in the form of both rain and snow. Temperature about 34 degrees. Otherwise, well below zero. Light winds here through the interior Copper River Basin, right up to the Arctic coast, with quite a bit of clear skies being reported, and fog northern Cook Inlet, especially in the greater Anchorage area, that reducing visibilities to half a mile at times in fog and light snow or flurries. Also Bethel down to a quarter-mile visibility in fog, dense fog this afternoon. And out here in conjunction with this storm out over the Bering Sea, heavy snow, quarter-mile in heavy snow this afternoon at Shimia. Otherwise, winds gusting with this front ahead of it up to 55 miles an hour at Adak, with about 0.2 of an inch of mostly snow falling there. Did change over to rain, but back to snow now, and about 40-mile-an-hour winds over at Atka. Otherwise, you can see a break here. Clear skies allow temperatures to fall to just above 10 degrees above zero mid-morning here, or around midday over the Pribilofs, break down toward the central Aleutians, even the Alaska Peninsula, although still some light or lingering light snow showers on the Bering Sea side of things. On the chart here, you can see very weak, this trough. Mostly it actually shows up better in the upper air, but there is a weak surface low here, about 1,007 millibars, southeast of Savunga. And this trough extending southeastward like this, with a band of moisture up through the Bering Strait from St. Lawrence Island, just catching Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and Point Lay, as I mentioned. Otherwise, this Arctic high over the Yukon and actually near Eagle, keeping it dry and cold here over the central eastern interior, all the way down into the North Gulf Coast areas. And the front with the gusty winds here, gale force winds ahead of the front there, pushing into the central Aleutians. And then the colder air wrapping back in behind that, again producing the good snow at Shimia. Otherwise, not a bad day here across the southeast coast. A few clouds right along the central coast there, but you can see mostly clear up into the Gulf of Alaska. And looking at the forecast for tonight, mostly clear and cold, really not much of a change here from what we saw today. Lingering flurries over toward Barter Island and the Kaktovik area, with clear skies back to the west, maybe some clouds, pick up the clouds possibly around Wainwright. Still a chance of snow. This system edging eastward a little bit, that'll bring a chance of snow into the Kuskokwim Valley up to maybe the Alaska Range. It'll be very light, mostly just a dusting. Chance of snow showers, isolated snow showers, Kodiak Island tonight, and then those taper off out over Bristol Bay, but stays variably to mostly cloudy here right out to the southwest coast. A few breaks over Nunivak Island, and maybe clearing out around St. Lawrence Island as that moisture kind of pushes off to the south. And this system here will stay south of the southern panhandle, but some of that moisture might nudge some rain or snow, very light, in toward Hyder or Stewart. Otherwise, all the southeast coast will be dry. More clouds down south, more clearing up to the north. Starting to pick up gradient here along the eastern North Gulf Coast, Copper River Delta. Starting to see some outflow winds. Nothing too terribly strong here, but becoming a little breezy even in the Lynn Canal and those areas. And for tomorrow, that actually tightens up a little bit, so it could be kind of breezy there for the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area. Gusty outflow winds, North Gulf Coast, maybe Prince William Sound, but again, nothing serious at all. This front really weak, or this trough really weakening here. So again, it still looks a little better in the upper air than it does at the surface, but really running out of moisture, just clouds and maybe a few flurries here right along the trough axis. Otherwise, cold and mostly, or dry and cold over the interior with light winds. And most of the clouds will be with that feature there. And the chance of showers, again, snow showers, very light, might skiff Hyder and Stewart in the Panhandle. Right about there is where I'm talking about with that trough. Most of the action off to the southeast. This front weakening as it pushes eastward, so look for a narrow band of snow to push across the Pribilofs. Mixed rain and snow, again light for the eastern Aleutians, but numerous snow showers, pretty cold air coming back in around that. So snowfall levels right down to sea levels, numerous snow showers, Atka, Adak, all the way back out to Shemya, and otherwise mostly clear for the Seward Peninsula into the Yukon Delta, but wind and chances light snow begin to increase, especially late in the afternoon. That'll be primarily for Nunivak Island and to a lesser extent along the southwest coast. Looking ahead to Sunday, second day of the weekend, that thing just washes out, comes in, and then just really dissipates here. Even weaker than the one we have in place there today, but still a chance of snow St. Lawrence Island. Across the southwest interior, maybe some flurries or light scattered snow showers for Bristol Bay, Port Hayden, Pilot Point, dry for King Salmon, Igigik, and Dillingham, and some isolated snow showers possible for St. Lawrence Island. That's about it. Maybe a few flurries, light snow, north side of the eastern Alaskan Range, Tok, Northway, in those areas. Clear and temperatures well below zero. Here, really from the Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, all the way up to the Arctic coast with light winds. Bigger storm comes in, a little more impressive here into the western Bering, southwest Bering, with a pretty good front bringing a slug of moisture with it, and at least gale force winds into the Adak-Atka area, back out to the west, but not reaching the Fox Islands, and a break there for the Pribilofs on down to Alaska. Cold Bay, Falls Pass looking pretty good on Sunday, and pretty breezy North Gulf Coast, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, those areas, maybe down to Stevens Passage. Could see some gusty northeast winds there, but lighter down to the south. Still a risk of a snow shower over toward Hyder and Stewart. Otherwise, that's about it. Mostly clear day, sunny afternoon or midday will be mostly sunny here across all of southern Alaska. Even up into the interior, just patchy areas of fog. Lows tonight, anywhere from 25 to, say, 40 below zero here, eastern, northern interior. Single numbers to a little below, or actually below zero, south central Alaska, Cook Inlet area, and the Kenai Peninsula. Single numbers out to the coast. Teens for the Nunivak Island, near freezing for the Pribilofs. Highs tomorrow below zero north of the Alaska Range, 5 to 15. South central Alaska, near 20 for the southwest coast, and 20s to lower 30s for the Panhandle. Following morning, Sunday morning, about what we'll see tomorrow, anywhere from 25 to 40 below zero over the interior, and below zero Cook Inlet, Susitna, Madawaska Valley, maybe Madawaska Valley to 15 below, followed by highs, single numbers to lower teens, well below zero in the northeast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather here, big batch IFR, southwest coast, into right up along the western slopes of the western Alaska Range, and then it kind of tapers off on up toward the Noatak Valley there. VFR, eastern interior, weakening front, a band of IFR with that. Just approaching Nikolsky, getting in toward the Pribilofs, and then areas of back to the west. VFR for the southeast coast and North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound tomorrow afternoon. VFR here, marginal VFR west of the Alaska Range or northern Kuskokwim Valley, right on up across the Kobuk, Selawik Valley areas into the western Brooks Range. Otherwise pretty good here over the eastern interior. Mostly VFR for the southeast coast, IFR along the southwest coast, and now east of the Pribilofs on up to the south coast of St. Lawrence Island, marginal for the Aleutians. And the following morning, Sunday morning, pretty good VFR, southern Alaska, up the east side to the Brooks Range. Then you get into some marginal stuff for the Kobuk, western Koyukuk Valley, on out toward Selawik, and eastern central North Slope, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Areas of IFR here across the southwest interior to St. Lawrence Island, and mostly marginal for the Bering Sea Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. A little bit of VFR popping up there, and some IFR out west of Amchitka Island, VFR North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and the Panhandle. That holds through Sunday afternoon. Good VFR through all these areas here, right up into the Copper River Basin, west to the northern Kuskokwim Valley. Some marginal VFR in areas of the upper Yukon Valley there north of the White Mountains to maybe Arctic Village. VFR back to the west, IFR Nunivak Island in across the lower Yukon Valley and Delta, and then back down toward, looks like Iliamna there, and Bristol Bay Kodiak, marginal VFR, and then back into some VFR here, Alaska Peninsula Eastern Aleutians, marginal VFR for the Central Western Aleutians. And for Anatuvik and Adigan, both VFR tomorrow, and for the Lake Clark Merrill passes, good VFR, same thing for Rainy, windy VFR, Isabel, St. Helens visibility is mostly unlimited, same forecast for Mentasta. Good VFR for Tanina, even Portage looking good, wide open. VFR, either approach, Chilkoot and White, VFR. And moving on to the freezing levels, not much to show here at the surface. North of the Pribilof, south of St. Matthew Island for tomorrow morning. Kind of a warm up there, I guess. And then right along the Alaska Peninsula here, hugging Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast as it usually does. On down along the outer coast of the Panhandle, 2,000 feet south of the Queen Charlottes. Icing, none over interior Alaska tomorrow down to Kodiak Island, none for the Panhandle, none for the Gulf of Alaska. Narrow band of isolated moderate, maybe here, greatest threat anyway, Nunivak Island, north of the Pribilofs, east of the Pribilofs, down across Unalaska Island. Just a slight chance, actually, of anything significant. Another batch out there over the west central Aleutians, maybe affecting Adak. Jet stream showing chilly northwest flow here, about 50 knots. A couple of cold upper lows over the interior. Actually, this one over the Yukon, another one there southwest of the Queen Charlottes. This one associated with the big storm out over the western Bering and the Aleutians. Main jet, though, well to the south, keeping all the action into the south with the exception of the storm out over the Bering Sea. And for the 9,000-foot winds, good southwest flow here. Of course, that's going to pull that freezing level north of the Pribilofs at the surface anyway, bring at least temperatures up into the lower to mid-30s there by tomorrow morning. But 50-knot winds southeast drop off, but increasing there for St. Lawrence Island in the afternoon. Pretty light here over the interior with ridging to the south and weak lows up over the north, and maybe up to 25 knots here along the southeast coast. 3,000 feet, same thing, north to northwest, 25 knots. Mostly along the coast, lighter inland, light variable winds over the interior, and southeast winds on the increase here, approaching the coast, 50 knots south of Nunivak Island, and west-southwesterlies 25 to 45 out over the Aleutians. And again, even the Arctic coast looking pretty light and variable. Turbulence-wise, occasional moderate chop here from the western Alaska Peninsula. Fox Islands, central Aleutians all the way out to Shimia. Along the southwest coast here, those increasing southeast winds, moderate chop below 5,000 feet, as well as areas of the North Gulf Coast and northern Panhandle. After the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Dual polarization technology is a major upgrade to the current radar system. It allows forecasters a better idea of what's actually out there and can help keep you safe.
Current radar technology transmits and receives information in the horizontal direction, which is very limited. Dual polarization technology, in addition to the horizontal, transmits and receives vertical energy, which allows forecasters to get information about the size, shape, and phase of the precipitation. We can use that information to better determine the precipitation type to expect at your given location.
There you have it. This new technology is currently being installed in radars across the country and is already being used by National Weather Service forecasters to produce better, more accurate forecasts. Learn more here and follow us. Want to know about the future of weather radar? Well, the National Severe Storms Lab has it here with its new phased array radar. Let's check it out.
It's a non-moving radar. It has 4 faces of the antenna, each pointing in different directions. One of the big advantages is that we're seeing so far, it can sample the area around the radar in less than a minute, maybe even a half a minute. And this is 5-6 times faster than what they can do today.
NSSL is leading the development of future weather radar with this project. Learn more here and follow us. The Storm Prediction Center is one of the NOAA weather partners. They are located in the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Greg Carbon gives us a glimpse into what the SPC does.
Our mission is to analyze and forecast severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds from those thunderstorms across the lower 48 states, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the primary missions of the Storm Prediction Center is the issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches across the country when conditions appear to be coming together to support the development of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
The world-class meteorologists in the Storm Prediction Center specialize in severe weather and keeping you safe. Learn more here and follow us.
The National Severe Storms Lab is working on increasing the lead time for severe weather warnings. The national average for tornado warnings is currently 13 minutes, but more notice would be helpful, especially for those in charge of moving large groups to shelter. Warn on Forecast will help forecasters issue hazardous weather warnings earlier. The project will give them more info about the chances of strong winds, large hail, and even tornadoes.
Currently, warnings are created by forecasters looking at the atmosphere outside, understanding its volatility, and then comparing that to how they see the Doppler radar presenting what's going on inside thunderstorms. Warn on Forecast is an idea where we're going to take the massive amounts of satellite, radar, and surface data and stick them all into a very high resolution prediction model. And then by producing new forecasts every 15 or 20 minutes, the forecasters hopefully will be able to use that model to produce warnings that extend out to an hour.
Before the National Weather Service can use this tool, it must be developed and tested. One big challenge will be deciding how to get the model predictions to the forecasters.
I'm going to keep this one very low. I'm just adjusting the track.
These hazardous weather prediction models are going to produce a huge amount of output. And this fire hose of data is just too much for forecasters to handle in real time quickly. So in order to help deal with that, NSSL has developed a related project called Facets. And Facets is the methodology which will enable forecasters to focus very quickly on the most important threats.
Once Warn on Forecast and Facets are proven to be reliable and effective, then forecasters will be better able to inform you of threats nearby. Learn more here and follow us.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is located at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It is used for experiments that will allow forecasters to learn and apply new technologies.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is a really unique space throughout all of NOAA. And this is where the researchers and the operational folks come together in a common space to solve operational problems and to test new research tools that the research community is working on. The goal is to accelerate the transfer from research to operations of the newest tools and techniques.
People come from around the world to collaborate on this unique project.
We can bring together not only NOAA people, but also university people, faculty, researchers, private sector meteorologists, folks working in other countries in meteorology, forecasters can all come together and focus on what the problem of the day is with the forecasters.
Each spring, several experiments occur in the hazardous weather test bed. Learn more here and follow us.
What are you looking at? And what are you ignoring? Did you notice the NOAA logo in the corner? Forecasters have a lot of information in front of them too. Every second counts during severe weather, and decisions about where to focus are constantly being made. This could be even more challenging in the future. Phased array radar will produce 4 to 6 times more information than what we have now, which brings us to the question researchers are hoping to answer. Will more radar information affect forecasters' decisions?
From our past experiments, we've learned a lot about how forecasters think during the warning decision process, but we've also learned that those thought processes are very complex, and for that reason, we need a better way to be able to track forecasters' cognitive activity.
Inbounds and possibly golf ball sized hail.
An eye tracker is a piece of technology that is used to determine in real time where someone's eye gaze is located. And these eye trackers are typically video-based, which means a camera sits below a computer monitor, and with infrared light and vector analysis, we can determine where a person is looking and how their eyes are moving.
Eye tracking is already being used in the medical field and air traffic control. Using similar research methods, NSSL is discovering the benefit for weather forecasting too. Phased array radar will give forecasters a lot more to think about. Understanding their decision-making process will help researchers develop even more user-friendly tools. So what's the benefit for you? Even better weather warnings. To learn more, check us out online and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Not a lot of change out here over the Bering Sea on down into Bristol Bay. Not much expected for the next several days, as wind flows will be pretty much parallel to the ice edge, southeast to northwest there. But Cook Inlet, there was a big increase in the ice here for northern Cook Inlet, and by the next several days, the ice is expected to advance southward with continued cold temperatures to south of Kenai. Moving on to coastal water forecast, north winds 20 to as high as 25 knots on the south coast there. Lighter west-northwest 15 north coast. North 40 Lynn Canal, gale force northerlies tomorrow, and 25 knots for Stevens Passage, northwest at 20 for Clarence Strait. And even stronger winds in store, or at least gust-wise, sustained 40 northern Lynn Canal, gusts 55 knots, north 30, gusts 40 knots, Stevens Passage, northwest 25, small craft advisories for Clarence Strait. North 25 on the south coast, seas up to 10 feet, and then north 20 become northeast 20 in the extreme north coast with 4-foot seas. Prince William Sound, light northerlies, 10 knots, seas at about 2 feet. Northeast 10 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, with those outflow winds gusting to about 30 knots. West 10, gust 20 here for the western North Gulf Coast. 20-knot winds, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, and southern Cook Inlet. Northeast 15, 10 knots north of the Forelands. And for Sunday, northeast 10 north of the Forelands, turning north 15 for southern Cook Inlet, northwest 15 for Kamishak Bay, 20 knots for the Barrens, north 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast, and light northerlies continue for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island on the east side, northwest 20, otherwise variable winds becoming east in the afternoon at 10 for Shelikof Strait, east winds 10 knots from Castle Cape to about Sitkinak, then south 30 knots, Pacific side of the peninsula. Gale warnings developing in the afternoon tomorrow for the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Southeast 35, 8-foot seas, east 20 for Bristol Bay. Those drop off to southeast 15 for the bay there on Sunday. West-southwest 15 for the peninsula, southwest 15 up to Sitkinak, west 15 east side of Kodiak, kind of a light variable wind for Shelikof Strait. And for the Fox Islands, gales for Unalaska Island, south 35 to 40 knots, Umak Island, southwest 30. And then back into the gales for Adak and Atka, 35 to 40 knots southwesterlies, west 45. Storm warnings out for the far western Aleutians there, 50 knots, roughly from about Amchitka Island or Kiska Island back to Attu. And then for Sunday, Storms now for the central Aleutians, southerlies 50 to 55 knots, Adak and Atka. Otherwise, full gales all the way back to the far western zone. And small craft advisories on Alaska Island, but stiff gales here coming in toward Nikolsky and Unmak Island out of the south at 40 knots, seas 15 feet. Southwest coast, north of Nunavik Island, east 40 knots. Southeast 40 for the Pribilofs, east 40, 21-foot sea, St. Matthew Island, gales for St. Lawrence Island. And then for Sunday, lighter winds here along the coast, south to southeast 15, south 25, the Pribilofs, 30 knots for St. Matthew Island, east at 30, coming under gale force for St. Lawrence Island. Eastern Boulevard Sea coast, really light here toward demarcation point, just 5 knots, and then east at about 10, northwest 15 on the central coast, turning west at 10. Kind of a squirrely wind flow up here, but northeast there around the Capes, and then the Chukchi Sea north at 10. And then for Sunday, a little more organized here from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort, northeast to 15, dropping off to 10 knots. Northerlies really light, just about no wind at all on the central and east side, maybe west at 10 over toward the demarcation point area. And for tonight, a few flurries lingering up in that zone as well. Patchy fog, nothing significant, otherwise mostly clear all the way down. Areas of fog persisting Cook Inlet. And again, these gusty outflow winds, eastern North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. Risk of a little moisture there, mostly towards Stewart and Hyder, otherwise dry for the Panhandle. And this upper level trough keeps it mostly cloudy in most areas with a chance of light snow or isolated flurries. Really flurries or isolated very light snow showers with that. And this front weakening as it pushes eastward, and we'll see it really weakens further with a narrow band of precipitation and snow for the Pribilofs, maybe a mixture for the eastern Aleutians, but nothing heavy. This continues to weaken in the interior. And then for Sunday, that really washes out here along the southwest coast as it moves in, stays cold over the interior, well below zero, maybe some flurries northway in Tok, and then the storm force winds come into the western Aleutians with storm force southerlies for Adak and Atka. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.